What's up everybody, welcome back to the channel and another V-Rising video. So today I want to just cover 6 quick tips to someone that is basically just starting the game out, or maybe you have a couple of hours in it already, you're a little bit overwhelmed, and there's some things that are simply not covered by the tutorial of this game, even though the tutorial is of really high quality, I would say. So these are some things which I also took, maybe 10, 12, 15, up to 20 hours of playing to actually realize. So let's get started. First and foremost, when it comes to your starting location, right at the beginning, when you have to choose to build your base, it is not really explained to you how important this step essentially is. Now, what you're looking at here is obviously the map of the game, and essentially Farbane Woods, this beginning area here, is literally just that. This is where you will spend the first, let's say, 30 levels of your character, or 30 gear levels of your character easily, and most of the materials you need for those levels are contained within this space. However, eventually you will move over to the secondary areas, which is Silverlight Hills, Dunley Farmlands, especially Dunley Farmlands. And so the point is, at this time you will enter the iron era, or you'll basically have to be using iron a lot to get those weapons, and essentially for the rest of the evolution, next tier of your gear. And one of the best, or the main sources of iron in the game, is this haunted iron mine. It's not the only one, but it's the most readily accessible, and there's a shit ton of nodes in there. So when you start the game, you're going to be choosing to start either from this vampire waygate here or this vampire waygate there. You might be tempted to immediately just run out and establish yourself a base so that you can essentially start working from there. However, it would be more, beneficial to you to actually progress deeper into the middle of the map, and anywhere around here would actually be phenomenal places for you to actually start your base. That means that you'll also have access to the Forgotten Cemetery, you'll have access to the Bandit Stronghold, all of this readily, quite easily. You'll be able to access those, and you'll be able to strike out from there and go get resources, and essentially be that much closer to the resources that you're going to need. One other thing which is also very important is that in this beginner area here, of course, there are no horses. You actually have to go out into Dunley Farmlands to start seeing horses in certain encampments or farms. And this is very important because it's one of the fastest ways to travel around the game. So again, it's the closer you put yourself to this area means that you can have easier access to horses as well, by simply running out of your base and getting one from one of the farmlands. Like for instance, this area here, it has quite a few horses, and coincidentally also a vampire waygate, and exactly the same for this side and over here. So that covers starting location, and just some things for you to keep in mind instead of just essentially running out and establishing your base right outside the vampire waygate, and then realizing 10 hours in that you're running your ass off trying to get everything where you could have been better positioned. Second tip, and this one's a bit of a game changer, I literally only realized this about 10 hours into the game, is in situations where you have quite a bit of items lying on the ground, like you can see in front of me here right now. Your natural instinct is to run up to everything and just press F to pick everything up. However, what you can do is just pick a straight line through the loot, trying to cover or run across as much of it as you can. Hold in F, and your character will essentially hoover up all of the resources. Again, like I said, game changer, because sometimes you are being chased by enemies, whether you're playing PvE or PvP, and time is of the essence. So again, you can see I just run through it and I'm just holding in F, and it essentially picks it up. Even better, you can actually do this on horseback as well, so you can ride through loot with the horseback. Instead of stopping or anything like that, you can simply just hold in F and it'll pick up everything as you ride through it. For tip number 3, let's talk about fast travel. Now, there are 2 ways for you to essentially fast travel across great distances in this game. One of them is through these waygates, these vampire waygates, and the other one is through a cave system that you'll notice as you explore the map, that will open up these little diamond icons. Now, these two work in completely different ways. First of all, the actual vampire waygates themselves, there's tons of them split all over the map, and you can eventually even build one in your own base that gives you access to this network. Now, they are multi-directional, so you can jump to and from these as you please, with the one restriction that you cannot carry any crafting ingredients with you. So you'll have to dump everything out if you want to use it, or most often what I do is I use the waygate for my travel to something, but then with my travel back, I essentially come on horseback or whatever. However, there is another way of transporting yourself, or essentially getting across the map, and as mentioned, that is the cave system. Now there are 4 of these routes in the game, and they basically offer a one-way travel. So when you get in on the entrance, when you exit on the other side, you cannot travel back, but they are a way for you to travel while actually carrying crafting material. So as you can see here on the map right now, I'm actually at this one over here. Now once you get to know the layout of the map, you'll know which ones travel to which. This one, for instance, travels all the way down to over here, if I'm not mistaken, and we're going to see that just now. So again, you'll notice that in my inventory I am actually carrying some crafting material. So I can simply walk up to this red crack here, and as I hold F to enter it, then you'll notice I'll basically shoot through and I'll come out on the other side. Now you'll notice the exit sides of these caves have no way to climb up to them, and that's really what I meant with the one directional travel. I could now, for instance, still go back, but once I leap down here, once I jump down here, then I'm essentially stuck on this side. And as you can notice, I'm all the way down here now. So I traveled from there to there. So again, these are quite useful due to the fact that you can do it with material, and as you get to know their location, they can help you jump across the map quite well with resources in your bag, which is a huge difference and a lot more beneficial than using the vampire waygates. Speaking of vampire waygates, tip number 4, you can use them while on horseback, so you can take your horse with you. Again, the rules apply. You cannot teleport if you have any materials on you, as you can see there, so you'll have to discard down, but you can teleport with a horse, and as long as you're standing or sitting rather on the horse, you can use the waygate and you'll take the horse with you, which will of course help you to move around very fast on the other side, on the exit side as well. Next up, for tip 5, let's move to resources. When you are playing the game and as you're going through the motions, 2 resources in specific will come up to you and seem like you are gathering a lot of it, and there's really not a lot to do with it. This would be bones and plant fiber. Now, bones of course come from most animals that you kill in the game, as well as skeletons. They can come from graveyards, everything like that. And of course, plant fiber comes from essentially you destroying any plants out in the wild will drop a certain amount of plant fiber, as well as grass that you chop while you're essentially taking down trees and rocks and all of that. Now, both of these resources you will gather in abundance, and it would seem like at some point like you want to stop gathering it because you have so much of it in stock. My advice to you would be to keep gathering it and gather as much of it as you can. Both of these resources are quite important in, I would say, the mid game, maybe even mid to late, being that bones can be used to craft grave dust, and grave dust is an important resource which is fairly limited in terms of how you can farm it in the world. You essentially have to go to graveyards, you have to kill skeletons, and it's like a drop from them, as well as getting them from the actual graveyards. Grave dust is used for a lot of mid-range recipes, and you need quite a bit of it. And to grind up bones requires 100 bone for 1 grave dust. So the more bones you have, the better. So definitely stock up on these as much as you can. The second one, which is plant fiber. Plant fiber can be later on turned into paper with the paper press. And this is of course very important because paper is one of the resources that allow you to research building schematics or plans for you to essentially get more gear later on in the game. So again, the more of this plant fiber you have, the more of the paper you'll be able to make. And since the paper press is a super, let's say, mid to late game item, you might have stopped gathering plant fiber by this time, and it would have been a big mistake because then you are actually going to have to go out and farm it, which is super irritating because you were picking up so much of it to begin with. Now, sticking with resources for our 6th and final tip, fishing is also in this game, and like every other game that has fishing in it, it can sometimes be irritating and not exactly a mini game that you'd like to partake in. However, my advice to you would be to take up fishing as soon as possible. Go and craft yourself a fishing rod, and whenever you see one of these fishing nodes in the game as you run past water, to simply fish. Fish is a useful resource in mid to late game, and it is used for a multitude of different things. And you're really going to hate yourself when you reach this tier and then realize you haven't actually spent some time doing this, and so then you have to spend a huge amount of time actually catching up. Now, with me, fishing is something that I don't necessarily terribly enjoy. However, starting it out early and essentially doing a little bit of fishing every once in a while when you see a node is a way of spreading the pain out, and that's the best advice I can give you regarding fishing. that's gonna bring us to the end of the video. So thank you so much for watching, especially if you made it this far. Let me know in the comments down below if you have some quick tips for me or things that you'd like me to mention or have a look at in my next V-Rising video. This is a game that I'm super enjoying at the moment right now. I'm playing it by myself, I'm playing it in a guild, I'm playing it in PvP, PvE. I can highly recommend it. At the price point which it is being sold right now, there's a huge amount of fun and a huge amount of hours to be had here, and all of it is hella entertaining. But again, thank you for watching, and it's just super important to me that you have a fantastic morning, afternoon, and evening wherever you are in the world. And until next video, fucking cheers.
They want the best of me now, best of me now, best of me now, best of me. They want the best of me now, best of me now, best of me now, best of me. They want the best of me.